So I've been getting some questions about the barefoot training and how I did it, how I started, and why I completely promote it. So I've had tender feet my whole life. I mean, completely ridiculous tender feet. I mean, if I'm standing on cotton balls and one of them has a corner, I'm gonna buckle and drop. And that was weird. And for years I just put up with it. You know, I mean, I can put up with some pain, it's no big deal, I'll get through it, but this was brutal. Like, I just walk around, little pebbles, little sticks, things that aren't sharp just would bother me as I moved. And it was ridiculous. I'd be walking on rocks in the ocean or something and just barely making it by, and little girls would run by me. No problems with their feet. So I was like, there's gotta be something wrong. So what I started doing was there's actually where I started. You can see there's rocks and twigs, nothing really sharp. Nothing that's gonna stab in my foot, but definitely things that my feet are gonna have to contend with. So the first 2 weeks, it was like brutal and somewhat not getting any better. What I started doing was when I was here or when I could, I'd take off my shoes and I'd walk around. And again, I'd be going, but then eventually what I found was my shoes have been too tight my whole life. And what happens is when your foot's wrapped in a shoe, it loses flexibility, just like if you were to cast your legs, they would lose their flexibility. So after years of being in a shoe, holding my foot, what it was the bottom was too stiff. So as it stepped on stones, it didn't form around it, it didn't relax around it, it was rigid and it pressed down on it, making my feet really sensitive. So what I started doing, when I was training for a 50K, I started training barefoot with no intentions of running the 50K barefoot. I just wanted to do the bare feet, bare feet in training. Get my feet muscles going, get my feet untender, and really kind of figure out, is there anything behind this barefoot training? Because logically it makes all the sense in the world to me, I just never done it. So I started walking barefoot everywhere I went, and I'm going to give you a nice little demonstration here. When I was going up these hills in the morning, when I first started, this was really it. This is what I was doing. This was, ow, ow. And that's real, that's what I was doing. I trained 8 weeks for a 50K, and I'm not a runner. I don't have good cardio or anything. So with the 8 weeks before the race, I was just thinking, crud, I can't really condition myself up. I'm gonna actually have to go at this a different way. Because I didn't want to be too sore, because I didn't want any injuries, because 8 weeks isn't enough time to recover. It's barely enough time. So I decided my main focus was going to be going barefoot to build up my leg muscles, build up my feet muscles, work the joints a bit, and it really worked. So now I've done the 50K, I did the 31 miles, and for training, I only did 5 miles a day. I never ran more than 5 miles a day until about the 7th week, where I was like, okay, let me do half this race. And me and my buddy John, we did 13 miles. It was really rough, but I was like surprised. It wasn't that crazy bad. I did better than I thought. So I knew that it was gonna be okay. And I really related it to the feet. And now, again, this isn't like shale or anything like that, but it's rough stuff. So, and now I can just run up this stuff and turn and go and turn and go, turn back, run downhill, and my feet feel fine. It changed everything about it. The reason I'm telling you this is I didn't run the 50K barefoot, but I did train barefoot. And after 31 miles and only 8 weeks of training, I didn't have a blister on my foot. I didn't have a knee problem. My hips didn't get tight. Nothing like that. My body was healthy for 31 miles and not really sore the next days. I think there's a lot to do with the bare feet. I think it's something we should get back to. Maybe we don't go shopping barefoot or go into restaurants barefoot. But one of the things I started to notice too was your toes start to separate, your feet get stronger, and my shoes started wearing evenly. I don't know if you've ever looked at the bottom of your shoes. You probably have, but typically feet don't wear evenly. So bottom of my shoes and pads, they wore completely even. I had no injuries. I didn't even have sore spots after 31 miles. And again, to remind you, I only trained for 5 miles at a time. I never really did my, oh, this is my 20-mile day or 20-mile day before the race. It was all 5 miles because I was training my body to run correctly. I wish this was my advice, but the reason I started doing that was I started jogging my mile in San Clemente, and I was just noticing all these older guys, 50, 60, even 70, and they were training for 50-mile runs, 100-mile runs. And this is the advice they gave me, so I took it to heart because they look great. It's exactly how I want to look, that's exactly how I want to act, and those are exactly the goals I want when I'm 70, 60. So I took their advice and barefoot training. I'm a huge promoter of it. You rarely find me in shoes now, and I feel it from the toes to the top of my body because this is what connects our body. This is the foundation. So get it tough. Let me give you a good foot. Look, get your feet tough. Get them calloused. These are your shoes. Take good care of them, make them strong. It's going to affect everything you do. I feel the barefoot workouts in everything I do because from the ground up, my muscles are toned and know how to respond to the ground and surface I'm walking on. All right, thank you very much. That's what I have to say about barefoot training. I'll always be doing it from now on as a personal trainer and a fitness coach and into yoga. I feel like it was a real blind spot for me and I missed it. I'm glad I found it. I'm glad those older gentlemen told me. I'm glad I can see them in action. I'm always going to do it. All right. These are my new Nikes. Have a good one.